Great series coming, a trilogy, right?
Yeah, meteorologist Derek Witt wraps up a three-part explainer in this weather word of the week.
Welcome to this third and final episode of our breakdown of the Skew-T diagram. In part one, we went over what exactly the Skew-T diagram is. Then in part two, we looked at how different precip types are forecasted with the chart. Today, we're going to be discussing how important Skew-Ts are for severe weather. Remember, temperature, dew point, and wind are the only things plotted on a Skew-T. From there, we use those 5 different lines in the chart to trace a rising air parcel and learn how high it needs to rise before clouds develop. We can also figure out how warm the Earth's surface needs to get to kickstart convection, and we can also gauge the stability of the atmosphere. A stable atmosphere is usually when the layers above the surface of the Earth are warm enough that a parcel of air just can't rise through. Think about how cold air sinks in your house and warm air rises. So when the atmosphere above is cooler, that warmer pocket of air can rise. Now, a huge part of forecasting severe weather involves knowing how much convective available potential energy, or CAPE, is above the Earth's surface. That is the fuel that powers storms, and the more red you have on this chart, the more fuel the storm has. However, the blue shaded areas represent convective inhibition, or negative energy. Higher amounts of SIN impede the development of thunderstorms. We also look for wind shear, or change in wind speed and direction with height, on the right side of the Skew-T diagrams. Thunderstorms can still develop with no wind shear, but they don't last long and usually don't become severe. Therefore, wind shear analysis is critical for gauging the potential for severe storms. When we see a sounding like this, it indicates that a microburst is possible due to the dry air aloft entering the downdrafts. Lastly, a Skew-T that looks like this is the last thing a meteorologist wants to see. We call it a loaded gun sounding, and for good reason. There's a huge amount of energy in the atmosphere for the storms to use, and the wind shear is ideal. All you need is a trigger, such as a cold front, to get things going. A chart like this would indicate a high likelihood for severe weather and possibly tornadoes. I'll leave you with this final question. Where do we get all this data from in the first place? For the answer, you'll have to tune in for our next Weather Word of the Week.